Good afternoon, Muskegon, Michigan. Ski Town, how you doing? Welcome to Torn Two, your show for news, information, and more. Today is March 14th, 2021. I want to thank the listeners and the people that are watching on Facebook. You can do that if you would like to take part and ask questions. You can do that on WVS on 103.7. Don't forget our sister station M106 for banging music. I kid you not, they're doing a great job. Today's weather. It's Friday, high of 64. What is it on my watch? It's 63, low of 48. Saturday, high of 64, cloudy, low of 43. And Sunday, 66, low of 50. Monday, jumping up into the 70s. At the end of the month, at the end of the week, starting around Thursday, look about 40-50% chance of rain. I want to talk to you guys about why we're doing this show. We had so many requests to do a part 2 on this show, and I figured that we would, but why don't I do this? Why don't I first of all thank everyone that are shooting me messages, sending me texts, contacting me about issues that they want to talk about. But this issue we talked about, which is human trafficking, we talked about it, and you can't do it justice in talking about it in just like 43 minutes or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to do human trafficking part 2. We're going to get Sarah on. Sarah, come on. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
You are a very popular person. Trying to get a single picture of you is one of the hardest things I had to do, but that's okay. That's okay. Sarah, please tell people your position and what you do.
Sure. I am the executive director of the Hope Project here in Muskegon County. And we work to bring healing and restoration to survivors of sex trafficking and vulnerable youth. And we do that through mentoring, education, counseling, a lot of different avenues where we just try to be the extra support for survivors of sex trafficking here.
Where's your location at, and what's the phone number if somebody wants to get a hold of you?
Sure. Our office is on Peck Street, but you can go to our website, which is hopeprojectusa.org. And our phone number is 231-747-8555.
Okay. Let's break some glass and get rid of the smoke and get right into it.
All right.
We talked about it earlier. Let's do some refreshing. If you didn't listen to or see the first episode of human trafficking, there is human trafficking in Muskegon County, correct?
Yes, correct.
And speaking of trafficking, look at him. He's getting ready here. I'm going to bring in the other part of this. Mr. Johnson, are you there?
I am here, sir. Sorry about that. I had our tech crew helping me out.
All right. Would you introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, sir. Nate Johnson from Fresh Coast Alliance. And I specifically work with men and women coming home from prison, those coming out of addiction. And this is my lovely wife here with me. So I'm sure she's already introduced herself, but yeah. So that's
give us your location and phone number, how people can contact you before we get into the subject.
Yeah. So Fresh Coast Alliance, we're located downtown in the Sheldon Park neighborhood. The address, if you want to come by and see what we're doing, where we're located, it's at 1128 Robert Street. And then you could contact me via email at natej@freshcoastalliance.org and hit me up. Let me know if there's something that you'd like to come and learn more about Fresh Coast, what we do. We have a housing program. We own and operate our own therapy practice, and we have reentry recovery services here. So it's a one-stop shop for those coming home from prison or jail, and those coming out of addiction.
Now I was telling Sarah that she is one of the hardest people to get a single photo of. Either you guys are in weddings or having children or have kids by you. It's a hard thing, but I found a good picture of you guys.
Oh,
Okay, so we're gonna get right into this. Pastor Nate, is that for people that didn't listen to the first one, is that human trafficking does exist in Muskegon County.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah, I mean, this is not a small thing. It's a big time. Now, the second thing is that what we talk about, most people, when they think of addiction, they think of someone being stolen out of a house or a runaway goes away or stuff like that. But it's more, it's deeper than that. Sarah, you want to talk about that? Oh, wait a minute. We can take these off.
Yeah, you can take your mask off now, Greg.
Okay.
With addiction, is that what you're wanting me to talk on, Greg?
No, human trafficking.
Oh yeah, with human trafficking. Well, addiction, drug addiction and trafficking actually are linked together in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
What we see here in Muskegon County, sadly, is we have cases of children being sold by a family member to supply their drug addiction. We start at age 11 years old, and we have had a couple clients who have been 11 years old who were trafficked by a family member. So somebody else can abuse that child, and the parent is getting money or drugs for that abuse that's happening.
Now, Sarah, last time you told that you had even infant, somebody at the age of 4. Last time you told me about.
Yeah. I mean, it can even be that young. Yeah. Some of the women that we serve were trafficked at 4. One of them, was at 4 years old. Another one was at 3 years old. It's horrible. Yeah, it's awful. But we try to be here as to bring hope and to bring healing to those who've been through that extreme trauma and abuse, and that there's hope for them out there. They can recover, and we try to do the best to work with them so that's possible.
There was a story because I work with the school districts and stuff like that, of kids in 2nd grade talking about sexual issues that I can't even tell the story, but it was 2 girls fighting over a guy in 2nd grade. Nate, how important is that we get to these young kids and talk to these young kids about these issues that are going on?
I'll share some of my thoughts and perspectives on this. So, when we're talking about sexual education and all the different things that can go on with the whole human trafficking deal, right? Mm-hmm. That, I believe, should be done inside the household. I think that the first time children hear about sex and hear and sexual relations and things they need to hear that from their parents, from the household, but done in a healthy way. Because if the parents don't teach what this is about, it's going to end up being the schools, and the school may have whatever their version is of this, and it's going to be taught there. It may be taught on the playground by some other kid who's been heard about it from their parents or older brother that has this negative bent to it. But the crazy thing is this, it goes back to the law first mentioned. The first time an individual hears of something, that usually becomes their framework and lens that the paradigm in which they hold comes from. So if they hear a negative version of sex, if that's the first time that they hear it, it's going to leave a negative impact on their mind. So the educational piece comes in, where those are things that we have to bring back into the household and not lay that responsibility upon the schools to teach our children about what healthy sexual relationships is and what unhealthy sexual relationships are. Mm-hmm. Because if it's not, to the women, Sweet Willie's all up at the schools, right? Sweet Willie's a handful. And so if we're not taught at a young age what this looks like, then we could become susceptible to anything.
Well,
One thing that's
go ahead, Sarah.
really helpful is that we have an outstanding organization in town with the Child Abuse Council, and they're in the schools educating children about what's appropriate touches and what's not. Because as Nate's talking about, he wants the family to educate students, but of the women and children that I work with don't have a family that would be able to educate them in a healthy way about sexuality. So it's nice having another organization come into the schools, and so they can hear about what is healthy and then what's not healthy. So then if a child is being abused or groomed, they would be able to talk to someone about it.
Go back to Pastor Nate is that the education. Remember the people who rule write the education, and so that's one thing that we have to remember is that we do have to teach this definitely at home, but like Sarah, you were talking about a lot of your women, and Nate, probably some of the guys that you encounter as well didn't have correct parenting to teach them about those issues. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I can almost tell you about almost all of the people that we work with the exception of a couple. Everyone comes from dysfunctional families, right? None of us could say, "Oh, we got the perfect family right here." But there are different degrees and level of dysfunction. There are some that are it's dysfunctional to the 10th degree, which is where a lot of our folk come from, is from this dysfunction that parents, again, you can't give away something you don't have yourself, right? So if the parent hasn't seen a healthy model of what a healthy marriage looks like, of what it looks like to raise healthy children, they can't represent that to their children. So now there's this challenge of how do we do that? And again, it comes back to the parents again. Like, are the parents taking responsibility? Are we, and I need to speak to myself as well, are we taking responsibility to do this, to educate our children on what this looks like? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's.
Kelly Reed, if I mispronounce that name, let me know. But she's faithfully on here, and she multi-generational sex trafficking is big here. First of all, let's address that. Is it big here? We've said yes.
Define, whatever your definition of big is. We worked with over 100 survivors. Not all of them have been trafficked recently. Some were trafficked as children, but now they're older. It just depends what your definition of big is. But it's here. I will say that it is here.
Okay, child sex trafficking and pornographic. We talk about pornography as well is one of the main culprits of this, especially younger and younger thing going on. Would somebody like to elaborate the pornography connection?
Yeah, definitely. I usually say if you have pornography in your town, you have sex trafficking in your town. It goes hand in hand. And a lot of the clients that I work with have been used in child pornography. So, there's definitely a connection with porn and trafficking.
Say that again, Sarah. I want our listeners and viewers to hear what you just said.
Yeah, a lot of our clients, so survivors of sex trafficking, have been used in pornography and have been forced to be in child pornography. And even if they didn't do a certain act in the films or the pictures, then there were other consequences that would happen to them. So not everyone who's behind that screen is wanting to be there. People need to understand that.
Right. So a lot of people saying, "Oh, the pornography that person that they're watching there, that person is doing it on their own will." What they don't know is, like, most of the time there is drugs is behind it, money is behind it, but mostly they're not necessarily, like you said, doing it on their own free will.
No, the hard thing with that, because those pictures stay up. They don't know what happens to those pictures. So I have clients who are trying to figure out how to get their image down, but it's just out in the cloud somewhere, and it scares them. It's like, it's another point of trauma because someone else is using them, even though they're out of the trafficking situation now.
Wow. Pastor Nate, what do you, in dealing with the people, because you deal with both men and women, people coming out of incarceration and stuff like that. What is the biggest thing that you have to deal with when you're dealing with a sex history or a sex problem at Fresh Coast?
Well, you know, the unbeknownst to the large majority of our community, the lowest recidivism rate for individuals who are being released from prison in terms of charges are sex offenders. Sex offenders are at a 3% recidivating rate. So with our particular crowd of people who come home who may have had sex crimes are coming home and there's a 3% chance that they're going to reoffend. Usually they don't. Unbeknownst to what and we're just talking, these are statistics now, unless it's happening and they're not getting caught, whatever the case may be. But individuals are coming home and there's a 3% chance that they're going to actually go back to prison for another sex crime. And so you have these guys coming home, and what we do is, I mean, and this happens more so in like the one-on-one relationships where we hold the whole tribe accountable, and we'll ask questions, the tough, awkward questions about, you know, are you looking at porn? In our men's group, we get down to the nitty gritty and want to deal in reality and get the stuff out there. And if there are, we want to be able to come alongside of and help and support one another. Mm-hmm. But we haven't seen anything where an individual has come home on a sex crime and has gone and done anything that would be worthy of them going back to prison. With people that we've worked with.
Sarah, you want to address that before I go to the next point?
You can go to the next point. I think Nate covered.
This is for both of you. What I hear when it comes down to the prison population, that the prison population has changed. It's younger. They don't listen to what's called the OGs anymore. They're hard-headed. And it used to be where if you preyed on a young person and if you went to prison, you got dealt with. Well, it looks like the numbers are different now. There are more sexual predators in prison now than people, let's say, drugs and murder. Is that number correct, Nate?
I don't know exactly. I don't think so, but it possibly could be. And you got to view it like this. So there are 4 different types of sexual crimes. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're labeled by degrees. So you have first degree criminal sexual conduct, which is where there is forced rape, child molestation is in that group. There's second degree, which is where you could have, someone who's over 18 could have sex with a 13, 14, 15-year-old. Then you have third degree, which is similar to touching and feeling inappropriately, and you weren't invited to touch an individual in that particular way. And then you have fourth degree, which could be indecent exposure. So someone could use the bathroom outside and, behind a tree, and someone could call the police on them, and an individual would catch a criminal sexual conduct charge. Mm-hmm. So it varies in it. But what most people in society, when they first hear criminal sexual conduct, they automatically go to the worst case scenario, mm-hmm. and think that it's someone who it's child molesting or rape, when that's not necessarily the case. And it's not the creepy guy hanging out at the park with glasses and a funny beard, and he's overweight and his pants are jacked up and he looks like
he has a van and he's offering candy.
Yeah, that's not it. Almost 80%, if not higher, of all sexual assaults happen from family members or close friends.
Say that number again.
Over 80%. And I can almost guarantee, I'm just saying, I'm being moderate with 80%. Almost every single one of a rape, child molestation, a sexual crime against a person is done by a family member or a close friend to the family. It's not the creepy guy standing at the park. That's something I don't know where that even came from. I'm sure it's happened before, but that is not the common thing. It's family members and close friends of the family. It's someone who the victim has felt like they could trust, and they were lured away into this thing. And then that's when the sexual assault always happens.
Sarah, you hear a lot of times over and over again where an older sibling that's going through it will try to protect their younger siblings who's going through this through aunt, uncle, father, mother, and stuff like that. You hear these stories. How important is it for us to be able to have that communication with our children? It keeps going back to education, communication with our children. If you're being touched, give me give me some kind of signal that somebody touched you incorrectly and it's not your fault.
Yeah, that's huge right there, because children are so afraid to go to their parents because it could be their uncle that's abusing them or somebody else close in the family. And they're terrified to tell because maybe that person said something bad was going to happen to them if they were to tell. And so as a parent or another person in your family, or maybe you could be an aunt talking with your niece or nephew about this, if someone ever touches you in this way, you can talk to me and I will listen and I will believe you. You know, because a lot of times, sadly, even like with the women that I serve, the first time they shared that they were molested, their mom did not believe them because it was the mom's boyfriend and she didn't want to believe them. You know, so that adds another layer of trauma because now their mom, who they're supposed to trust, you know, doesn't have their back. And so it's really important to have that conversation with your children or with your niece or nephew to talk about that and say, hey, if something were to happen, I'm someone you can trust. You can come to me and I will listen to you and believe you. It's huge.
Pastor Nate, you were shaking your head on that one.
Yeah, it's true. And again, from our perspective, this is stuff we live in this world here where we're constantly hearing this stuff. So it may be foreign news to a lot of individuals, but a lot of the stuff that we hear is individuals who have shared their stories of this. They say the first time they brought it up that their own parents didn't believe them. So think about that from a child's perspective. If my own parents won't believe me, who else can I tell when the parents are the ones to be the providers and those who not only provide, you know, food and necessities, but are to provide protection. And if that's not there, where is the child going to place its confidence in? If my parents don't do it, then I'm probably not even going to tell my teacher or aunt or uncle or grandmother. Right. Not that it's like that in every case, but it's very real. And then now what we've seen is when the parents haven't responded to it, then you have the kids, they bottle this up and they keep it as a secret until they get older. And then that's what has the potential of creating this shifted identity and this cycle of defeat that individuals live in, because now they're in bondage now because they haven't been able to get this thing out, process through it, and realize that it wasn't their fault. Because the enemy will convince you and convince people all the time. This happened because of this is how you are, when that's not the case.
Right. You see, this world has become Prince put this, and I love this lyric that truth is the new minority in America. So you can't go up to your parent and say that, look, Uncle Jimmy or Aunt Susie touched me in the wrong spot and get, well, no, he didn't. And you want to protect that person first other than your child.
Yeah.
And that is her. You're telling me from both of you guys, you're saying that you hear that all the time.
It's very common.
Yeah.
Well,
because they don't want to see Uncle Jimmy go to prison. They don't want to see that because he might have kids himself and they don't want to put him through that. But so they take, so they don't listen to their children like they should. They don't believe them.
And then it's hard to believe that your family member would actually do that.
Right. They're in denial. 'Cause they don't want to see
But
him.
Uncle Charlie would never do that, or Uncle whoever. But the fact of the matter is, and it's not, and again, it's not to say that in every case that there, and obviously you have to use wisdom as you charter through that stuff, but those are, it's common, and it needs to be at least looked into and investigated and confronted.
Reed said, do you feel there is a connection between telling a child that multiple people have the right to put their hands on them, disempowering, create views,
Create victims.
which create victims?
Yeah, if someone's told that anybody can touch you, that would, that would make me more of a victim, because then I'm letting someone else say it's okay to use my body however they want to, and it's not my own, but we need to empower our kids to say your body is your own and you have the ability to say no and to get away. It's really
what about these parents that are, again, like you said, most of the people that are hooked in this trafficking thing is a drug related thing. So it's like, you got to take one for the team because I need a hit or whatever. And you finding out that these kids are dealing, or young adults are dealing with this over and over because of the next hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so not only are we don't have correct parenting, they don't believe them. We have people that have drug problems that can't get help, on and on and on. It just ends up into a big bad ball of just mush. Correct? How do we fix this problem?
Education, I think, is huge. Informing parents, informing the school, and informing every worker here in Muskegon County. Education is really important. And then having supports in place, so that young teenager or an adult can have someone they can talk to. So like at Hope Project, we have a mentor program because we believe the more supports someone has in their life, they're going to be able to make better decisions. So maybe if they have been abused, I'm
going to let you finish that because she froze on me, Pastor.
All right. Yeah. So, So, and it is, again, it goes back to the educational piece and educating, the teachers at the school. You got individuals who come into, emergency rooms. A lot of times victims will go in there with the person who's trafficking them because they need help. And then they'll get in there and there's certain mannerisms. And Sarah's good at explaining that part, where at times they'll come in there and because they've been beat down so much mentally that it's easy to convince them not to say anything, or they'll be beat, when they come out. And so they just go through the process of getting help at the hospital, and then they leave with the person who's trafficking them. So Sarah, I was telling them about the educational piece at the hospitals and how our medical community being, and even law enforcement being schooled on this, like from a law enforcement perspective, Greg, crack cocaine is illegal. And if police officers spots crack cocaine, they already know what to do. The girls aren't illegal. So I can be trafficking someone, have two of them in the car with me and drive them down to Indianapolis. And there could be another house over there where they traffic people. And I could swap the girls out. I could get pulled over. If I brainwashed them enough and I'm feeding them the dope, they're going to shut up and just smile and say, hey, yeah. And I'm trafficking them, interstate sex trafficking, and it goes undetected because the girls aren't illegal. That's going to be the new dope game. And it's already moving in that direction on the streets, where it's going to be selling the girls instead of the dope, because the dope's illegal. It's not illegal for me to have these girls.
Wow. And it not only is the new,
say, oh, well, that's just my cousin or my boyfriend if the police interviews them, and the cops can't do anything with that. So, and she's not going to say anything because she's going to be beaten up if she were to say anything to that police officer. Right. And some of the police officers have been so corrupt and have been using these women that they don't trust the police officers either. Not all of them, but there's been some that they have been abused by police officers.
Or we're going to this drug addict's house again. They're just going to be making up their futile lies and stuff like that. So it's another piece of the generation of people that get ignored because of where they're at.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about the other half, the Johns on this. The Johns, the people that go after the predators on this. Sarah, you want to start on this one? Nate,
Sure. They look like any person. They can be doctors, they can be pastors, they can be businessmen, they can be any race, color, all that. Like some of them are fathers, some of them are married. John it looks like a man,
or woman, or woman
too. I was going to say that too, because there's women who are also doing this. It's not just the men who are buying sex. Women are also buying sex.
Pastor Nate, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think back, and me and Sarah have talked about this. I think back at the times when I was selling dope, and some of the guys, the men who would buy dope from me they were coming from areas north like Ludington and Shelby and Hart and Manistee, and they would come down to Muskegon they like smoking crack. But a lot of these guys were businessmen. Some of them were construction workers or whatever, and they would tell the wife, "Oh, I got work to do down in Muskegon or down in Grand Rapids and Ben Harbor, so I need to go for the weekend." Would leave on Friday from their home up north, come down to Muskegon and get a hotel room here. And I already had the connection with them. So they say, "Hey man, I want to spend some money." And they would buy a half ounce of dope. But I remember on a number of occasions, some of them say, "Hey, give me one of them chicks too," and bring one of them chicks by.
Wow.
And I would, and back in the neighborhoods, you had prostitutes out there. So I'd say, "Hey," and she was already smoking dope. Say, "Hey, I got this cat out here. He just bought a half ounce of crack. He wants to have sex and smoke dope with you. You want to go out there and holler at him?" "Yeah, let's go." And so these guys would come down, smoke crack, have sex, and then Sunday go back and then to their families and their children and their wives as if, it never happened. And then they would go back into this and they'd be down here the whole time smoking crack and tricking. And those are the and this happens all the time. See, it's not the majority of it it's the, and I'm referring from someone who used to sell crack in the dope game. Okay. So this is a lot bigger than what I'm sharing. I'm just sharing with you just a morsel of this, right? So a lot of the ones that are coming from, the big money spenders are all coming from the outskirts of the inner city. That's not coming from Muskegon Heights. It's these individuals from outer, like let's say Ludington or Greenville, whatever. These are the ones that are coming down, getting it, and then they like picking up prostitutes.
And Sarah, you want to talk about a little bit about that too?
Yeah, I mean, we actually at our organization we don't use the term prostitute. We call them prostituted women because a lot of them, because when you use the term prostitute, it says that it's a choice, like that's their profession, that's what they're choosing to do. But we discovered a lot of them have gone into that because of a lack of choice. Mm-hmm. And so we usually use the term prostituted. So just on that. But yeah, I mean, what Nate said, that's true.
I think it's important that you what you said again is that a John can look like your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Both male and female. Is that like you said, looking for the creepy guy in the park with the van and the I got candy little child. Yeah, although that may exist, the person that does this can look like any person, any family member, anyone. And I think it's important that the kids know that they be able to talk to someone. If it's dad, mom, you got to trust me on this one, or Uncle Greg, this is happening. And anytime I think what do you guys think about this? When a kid comes to you and say that they are being touched, how important is it that you must take that seriously?
Extremely important.
Yeah.
It shows that you value them first.
Yeah.
You know, and for them to be heard, it's huge for them to be heard, that someone actually hears them out. And then, but not just hears, but then does something about it. Because I've had when they said, well, I did tell somebody, but nothing happened. But so following up on that, you know, calling CPS, calling the police department, making that phone call, talking to that person, you know, and then keep on calling until something happens, you know, because sometimes it might be investigated and then something might not happen because of it. But to be persistent on that and be their advocate is huge.
Pastor Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I did what she said. It goes back to that place of value. And then as adults, you know, I could imagine being, you know, as a parent, one of the greatest fears is hearing that. And having it had happened and we didn't respond appropriately, and it ends up creating a lifetime of internal conflict with that child. That would be one of the biggest regrets. I would rather want to fall on the side of caution than on trying to believe that maybe it didn't happen, maybe they're just making it up, or that person didn't do it. I'd rather want to fall on the other side. Let's look into it, and we need to investigate this to make sure that it didn't happen. I've seen it with the people, adults, 40 and 50-year-olds, Greg, that when we've worked through and walked back out a lot of the stuff that individuals have been through, that, you know, almost the one thing that all of us have in common who've been to prison is the fact that we were all molested. Almost every single person that comes through here.
Wow.
That's scary. It's like, dang, it happens that much? Yeah, it happens that much. Now, are all of them being reported? No. Right?
But it's happening a lot.
And a lot of individuals saying, man, I didn't get freedom until I got to the place to where I could get this stuff out in the open and actually talk about it. I've had men crying in some of our groups, 50-something years old, and saying, this is the first time I've ever told anyone. You know what I mean?
I want to speak on that for a second. I was at one of your groups on Friday night, and that very thing happened. And to see back and to hear the emotion and the pain that person went through, and it was just the men were in one room and the women were in another room, and all these things are coming out because they were touched. They reported it. Maybe they talked to somebody didn't listen to them, somebody didn't trust them, so they went to the next step over and over. And the next thing you know, now they're adults trying to figure out why they're messed up and why they're going through what they're going through.
Yeah. And it can be traced back to that, man. It's powerful. I mean, think of how many individuals where it's attacked their identity because of that. You know what I mean? There's detrimental effects to it. And that's why it has to be taken so seriously when we hear about this, but you know, with our children or any children, right? Because none of us as adults want that to happen to any child. And we have to be very cautious, you know, where the households that we let our children go to. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
The sites that they go to online as well. What are they doing on their phones? You know, that's a whole nother level.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have a lot of predators online who are pretending to be a 14-year-old girl talking to someone else, you know, asking for pictures and all that, and to educate your kids on not to send a picture of yourself to someone else.
How important is it that we talk to kids or stuff about what you put on the internet is almost forever. Yeah. It's going to be there forever. It's going to be in a virtual loop. How important is it that we talk to them about what they do on the internet and who they talk to?
Yeah.
Nate, you want to talk about?
You know, some of the stuff that we've had conversations with law enforcement. I mean, law enforcement, full-time people who are paid in law enforcement to hang out on social media sites and internets to look for people who are being predators.
And
Like
to play
that's
video
so-
games.
Playing
They play video
games.
games
their whole
looking for
job.
predators.
That's right. They're playing video games with the
Because
kids as
it's
well.
so prevalent, right? So there's
Mhm.
law enforcement that are playing video games all day just so they can be gaming and be in that environment, and they go undetected and everyone thinks that there's someone else. But the reason they had to create a job like that is because it's so prevalent, the whole predator. And so now
Exactly.
they have to wiggle through, and you got these grown men coming across as 12 and 13-year-old boys and girls, and here it is. Now they're luring these individuals into these situations, and it's
Now I'm gonna say something that's gonna be a little controversial. So this comment comes from me, okay?
Okay.
If you do not believe how many sexual predators there are, go on the internet and type up your zip code and put sexual predators 49441 and find out, because sexual predators are supposed to report where they live and find out how many people on your block, and you will be stunned.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do that to shame anyone. Matter of fact, I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that anyone that's been in this game one way or other can get better, because I've known guys that I've been in their lives that were sexual predators that have changed their lives and gone on and had families, and they're doing great. So I'm not trying to shame you. What I'm trying to do is to get you to know that this is serious and how important this is.
Yeah.
Because some little kid right now or some teenager right now is going through something that is so horrific, or families that are going through something that is so horrific by someone that they know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but it bothers the crap out of me. How do you guys work? How do you deal with it every day?
Yeah.
Sarah, how do you deal with it every day?
I pray a lot. I spend time with God and I give it back to him,
Mhm.
I have to have good, quality time, good self-care, have to exercise, spend quality time with my family, and being healthy.
Boy, she's on a roll today. Pastor Nate, you want to finish that one?
She is, yeah. And partly what we're believers. We're a married couple and we're raising our family as Jesus is at the center. So for us, the huge part is making sure that we have a life in the Word and that we have a prayer life for these. And I think part of the big thing with this whole thing is that we're both called to this demographic of people and this population. So we're graced for it, right? So I've heard some people say, oh my gosh, I would do this or that, which I understand because of the stuff I hear, but understanding that we've been graced supernaturally from the Lord to be able to do this,
Amen.
right?
Amen.
And so having a healthy perspective and a healthy outlook is we understand that we have the kingdom of God with us while we're doing this thing, right? And so we know that there is healing and deliverance, and we know that we're called to it, and we know that we're solutionaries, and that we've been placed here, as a part of the body of Christ to be solutionaries to the world's problems, and part of our DNA and ministry is to bring heaven's solutions to earthly problems. So when we go into it with that perspective that, man, we're here to save the lives of people here in the natural, that, God's graced us to bring these to help point the way and to show the way out, and also to be there during the healing process. And we have amazing teams around us. So it's, not just us, but we have an amazing team, and the ones who are really doing the day-to-day, spending the time with the individuals and going through the healing process, being there for the phone calls, being there for the one-on-ones. Our teams, are just, they're amazing. And so we have people that are graced for it, and we know that we're here to change the course of history for people.
I like that.
And you see the cross up in the middle.
I see that. I see that. A lot of people say, yeah, how can you do that job? I want to throw this one out. You know, I was a firefighter for 8 years, and you train just very hard for the job. Yeah, I do believe what you said, Pastor Nate, that God enables you to be able to do those jobs, but you're running into a fire, and when most people are taught to run out of a fire.
Yeah.
Now, how important is that training? Because you guys need volunteers and mentors to come in to serve along with these people. How important is the training of your staff, but a volunteer that could come in and help somebody change their life around? Sarah, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely important. I mean, we can't do what we do without volunteers and community support. So it's extremely important. We have a mentor program, and we have women that meet with girls once a week, and they commit for a year to do so. And then most of them, re-up their commitment after that year. Because they need that extra support. I can't be everybody's mentor, and Nate can't be everybody's mentor. It takes a body, it takes a whole team of people to do what we do. And so, yeah, it is. If anyone wants to volunteer, you can go to our website, hopeprojectusa.org, fill out a volunteer application, and you can donate. There's so many ways to get involved. We're actually doing a pop can drive tomorrow. If you want to drop off your pop cans at Bethany Christian Church from 8:30 to 10:30, and it helps to support the Lakeshore Human Trafficking Task Force. So we'll be doing that as an event to raise money.
Okay, before I go to the next one, I want to address, Pastor Nate, you want to address that? The same thing about mentors having, being trained around you, and people to come in to be trained so they can help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and not just within our organizations, but in every organization, there are a lot of well-intentioned people and individuals that really do want to help, but their version of what they think is helping is sometimes is not healthy, and it's not good. It's like, just be quiet and go stand over there until I talk with you, right? So
it's true.
It's not good. Individuals they're not graced for it. Now they have a good heart,
not a good fit.
Yeah, because you'll have simple things like this. Like, let's just take the formerly incarcerated people, and even sex trafficking, those coming out of addictions. You'll hear this. We don't need you speaking for us. We need you to speak with us. In other words, we can do this. We're not dumb. We're not stupid. We can do this. So come alongside of us. Don't go in front of us and try to come along. Speak with us. Don't speak for us. You know what I mean? Simple things like that. And then being able to learn how to, a lot of times, the stuff that doesn't seem attractive is just learning how to just be a friend, just be a listening ear to the individuals. Come on. Yeah, I don't need, because so most people think I don't need you to fix me. And understanding simple principles like with our staff, I tell our staff and our people, like, as a faith-based organization, we need to learn how to answer the questions that the world is asking. Okay? When they come here, look, I need housing, I need reentry, recovery, I need therapy, I need all these different things. Okay, we answer the questions that the world is asking. And then in that, we trust that the Lord prepares the platform for us to answer the questions they should be asking, which really deals with the heart issues, right? And
I don't need you to preach or speak at me. I need you to hold my hand and walk with me.
Yeah, and just be an ear, because I know I've been through a lot. Just, Greg, let me get this stuff out of there, and hey, man, and let me know that you love me regardless whether I agree with you about who you believe in or not.
Which brings me, I want to answer this question real quick. How do you feel about legalizing and monitoring sex work would affect abuse numbers?
How do you feel legalizing and monitoring sex work would affect abuse numbers?
Yeah,
I don't think it's legalizing prostitution. I don't think that's ever going to be it's never going to end well, right? I think we're moving into a time, and even now here in America, where one prophet said, he said, there'll become a time where evil will be called good.
Good and good will be called evil.
It's like, come on, there's a certain framework for sexuality. It's good. It's healthy. God created it. But it wasn't created so that it could be misused. And when it's misused outside of its context, the dangerous part is it'll take you farther than you want to go, and it's going to keep you longer and you want to stay. And it has the potential. We think, oh, well, they're just doing this. It's legal. Yeah, that thing will take you farther than you think you're going to. No one was at 7, 8 years old when they were playing with fire trucks and wanted to be police officers. Oh, I can't wait to be a child molester in 10 years when I turn 18 or 23. No one woke up when they were 6, 7 years old and said, oh, I want to be a rapist. You know where all that stuff starts at? Watching pornography. Then it gets you going. Now you step out and you do the next thing. All this stuff takes you, but we don't realize it at the end. All you see is, oh, I just want to have sex. Yeah, you open up this door, then you're going to go into the next door, and then you're going to go in the next door. Next thing you know, you're going to be doing things that you never thought that you would ever do. And it has the potential power to it.
That's right. Sarah, you want to?
Yeah, I think some of the heart issue with that question. I mean, this is a huge controversy within like the anti-trafficking movement. Even a lot of people have different opinions on this. But one thing I want to make sure is that we're not criminalizing women who are prostituting. Let's give them some other options out there, because I think that's part of it. It hurts their record. So then they can't get a good job later on. So let's figure out some other options, so instead of getting arrested, how about, okay, a police officer talks to them and said, hey, how about you have a choice here? How about you go to the Hope Project or another agency that's willing to help, where you could get some counseling and that type of a thing. So I think we have to give them some more options, because some of those women have been trafficked, not all of them, but some of them have. So there is a lot of controversy over that issue. Another thing too, if it is legal, how much younger are they going to go looking for that? So there's a lot of issues with that all.
Okay.
Thanks for that question.
Yeah, that was good question.
You have some great questions out there. I love it.
Reed is on the road. Every day every program she's on the roll. 2:53. So we got 6 minutes to really talk on. Okay, little Johnny comes over, and you can see bruises, and you get a really bad feeling about this thing. What should you do? First thing is, don't take matters in your own hand and end up trying to fight somebody. It's a proper way to do that. How important is it for me to get involved and not say it's not none of my business? Nate, you going first on this one.
How important it is to get involved. I think it's, for me, I think it's very important, because we don't want to make a wrong mistake, and it doesn't say, and I'm not saying, oh, you see this, call the police right away. No, it may be having a conversation with their parents and say, did you see this? Did you notice this? And then taking it from there, because you don't want to create a storm, and it's not really a storm, and you're leading off of first impressions and false information. You know what I mean? But it definitely needs to be investigated, and questions need to be answered for the sake of the child. And I think that's in a place where we need to be a voice for those who don't have a voice.
We had to be a voice for the child. Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, if that child opens up and says that they were abused or someone touched them or whatever, I think you need to make a phone call to CPS. That's what I would say to follow up with that.
Okay, now you got a friend. I want to talk to the Johns, and you're just struggling for pornography. There are a lot of programs that will help. The main thing is that you get it out and that you need help, and that, matter of fact, there are programs, excuse me, that say if my best friend is addicted to pornography, every time he went to a pornography site, it hits me up and lets me know to call him. There are a lot of things. I guess if somebody needs help, what do? They instead of holding it in. Who wants to take it first? Instead of holding, you've been molested, or maybe you're John. You got problems. Like you said, Pastor Nate, a lot of people that have been in prison started with abuse. Uh, how do we start right now? Right now. What do we do right now at this second?
At this second, I mean, I would encourage if we're talking to the faith community that they find someone that they could confide in, someone who may be a confidant, a pastor, maybe a counselor at the church, or they may want to talk with someone who's totally outside of their realm of people that they're around, and may want to get connected with a therapist, and talk and process through that. They could contact Fresh Coast Alliance. We own and operate our own therapy practice, so we could connect them with. I'm sure they could connect with Hope Project for resources too on counseling and therapists. Or there's Health West. There's a number of different therapy counseling practices here in Muskegon. But the first step is we got to get it out of the dark and out into the light by talking about it, and realize that I know the enemy in the world will try to make it seem like it's a shameful thing. It's not. This could happen to anyone. Happened to me. You know what I mean? But we're not going to carry shame around on us because it helps us. It not helps us, but it kind of moves forward this deterioration process on the inside, and it prevents us from becoming who we really are. So the first step is get what's in the dark, get it out into the light by talking about it.
All right, Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think talking to a counselor would be very helpful. And so, yeah, I think that would be really important to share with a counselor, because they're going to have the techniques and really be able to listen well and know what to say and that type of a thing, and with a non-judgmental response, So I would say definitely talking to a therapist. We have 4 therapists that we work with at the Hope Project. So if someone's a survivor of sex trafficking, they could definitely see one of our therapists. But I think were you more so talking about if someone's more so a predator and is wanting to come out and into the light, or just someone who's been abused?
Hold on, just a second. How much funding do you receive for providing Christian with abuse of victim?
For providing Christians with abuse victim.
Well, we don't specify whether they're Christians or not. We offer the services to anyone. So if anyone's been through abuse, Christian or not, we offer those services. If I'm understanding what she's saying, the funds that we get go to help anyone who's been abused.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my internet keeps on cutting out here. Sorry about
that. That's okay. Last question, and it's like 20 seconds to answer this. You can get involved. You can write that check if you don't want to get no further than that lazy boy. But you know what? You need to get further than that lazy boy. So maybe you need to volunteer. Maybe you're going through this thing, but you need, like Pastor Nate said, what happens in the dark needs to come to the light, and you got to speak that thing, what you're going through, or you're just going to continue making all these mistakes. Sarah, what can we say to that person that's having problems?
It's
not your fault.
Reach out. Yeah, not your fault. And reach out to get some help, because there are people out there who actually do sincerely want to help you.
Pastor Nate, what would you say?
Same thing, man. Reach out. Don't stay, because you have to remember this. If there's secrets like that, isolation. When you isolate a traumatic event like that, isolation always produces delusional thinking. If we don't deal with these things that we've isolated internally from everyone else, it'll produce delusional thinking, and we get to a place to where we could be thinking from a way that's totally destructive, and now we go off into a destructive path because we're not willing to verbalize those things.
Which, I mean, and trauma affects every area too in your body. It's a health issue as well.
Yeah.
Sarah Johnson from the Hope Project, Nate Johnson from Fresh Coast Alliance. Guys, thank you for coming back again. I'm probably going to need you for a third. So you may as well get ready because there's so much stuff. And people, I'm getting questions about funding. What you need to do is hit their Facebook or hit their web pages up for funding, and you can find out how to give.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for the show. God bless you. Everybody take care. This is Touring the Two with your host, Gregory T. Roberts. Take care. See you later.
Great. Thank you.
The second annual I Am Her Feminine Hygiene Drive, supporting young ladies from Ghana, Africa in need of everyday essentials and feminine hygiene products, was a great success. Thanks to the generosity of our community and organizations like Period.org, Muskegon Heights Public School Academy, Confident Cosmetics, Muskegon Heights Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Inc., and everyone who made a contribution. Hundreds of young ladies and village members received essential items. The community made a lasting impact with more than 10,000 sanitation items donated. If you would like to help, donations can be made year-round by dropping off items in the donation shed at the Mays and Wright Media Center, located at 1877 Peck Street, or making a contribution to paypal.me/1037thebeats. For more information, call 231-727-5007. Thank you for supporting I Am Her Foundation.